Welcome back to another episode of Beyond the Bushels. Today's guest is Zach Kampwerth from Southern Illinois, a fourth-generation farmer who's proving age doesn't define work ethic. We dive into his path from the college classrooms to the hog barn, what it's like running acres of his own ground, and how technology is reshaping life on this family farm. Let's get into it. Are you nervous?
Oh, not really. I've done some speaking stuff in the past, clubs at school and all kinds of different stuff. I was in the FFA in high school too and all that. So it's kind of second nature at this point.
Even if this is broadcasted to 10 million people?
Yeah, one of my buddies from school went on Shark Farmer podcast a while back. Our friend groups, we're used to it a little bit. We give each other some crap. So,
We're not that big.
oh, I'm sure my friends will find it. I hate the way my voice sounds on recording too. It just makes me cringe. I probably won't listen to it back, but I'm sure I'll hear about it.
Nah, it's all good, man. So why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself, where you're from. We'll get into the farming here, but want to hear a little background of some stuff outside of farming, what you enjoy doing, family life, and all that stuff.
Yeah, I'm Zach Kampwerth. I'm a 22-year-old farmer from Southern Illinois, just a little bit south of I-70, just a little south of Carlyle, Illinois. So that's where we farm at here in Clinton County. I'm 22. I'll turn 23 in January. So pretty young farmer. Just graduated from Southern Illinois University, Carbondale in May. I got my degree in ag business economics with a minor in agronomy. Before I went to SIU, I went to Kaskaskia College, which is our local community college, for 2 years. I got degrees in ag business, agronomy, and animal science there. Pretty educated from a school sense in agriculture, and now this is my first year in the real world. When I graduated, I went back to the farm. I farm with my dad and my grandpa on my mom's side, so it's technically two different farms. Help out with both. So here at home, we have a diversified farm here. We've got about 125 head of sows, and we farrow-to-finish. And then we have a row crop, corn, wheat, and soybeans. Do a little bit of everything, keeps us plenty busy. Dad always, when I was really little, had a hired hand. And then once I got in about fifth grade, I started helping out outside more and more. So been doing it for a long time, helping dad. And then my grandpa, he's about 75 or so. So he just needs a hand every once in a while. I head up there about once a week now and help him out. Just get paid by the hour up there or whatever. I help out everybody in my family farming pretty much. And the goal is to be a part of the business here pretty shortly, working on some transitioning and some family planning, stuff like that. I'm excited to get opportunity to come back to the farm. I know a lot of kids don't get that. And I know there's a lot of first generation farmers out there too. I'm fourth generation, so I know that I'm pretty blessed to have what I have. I'm just really thankful for what we do have on the farm, and I'm just trying to make the most of it. That's pretty much all about me pretty well.
Sounds like a pretty good life, man.
Yeah, it's pretty nice. I like it.
How long have you been back at the farm?
I graduated on May the 5th from SIU, and I came back to the farm 2 days later when I moved home. So May the 7th was my first day. So about a couple months or so.
Oh, so you're fresh.
Yeah, we're just about to start my first harvest being full time here. So it's pretty exciting.
Have you picked up any acres yet, or are you just pulling that
So,
hired hand help like most kids do out of
yeah,
college?
so whenever I was 18, my dad said that he wanted me to get more of a stake in the farm. So he rented me 25 acres, his ground, for me to farm. I have my own separate stuff, and then he's got his own separate stuff. So I started renting that. And the next year I picked up 25 acres from my grandpa. So I farmed some of dad's stuff and some of grandpa's stuff. I just used their equipment and pay them per hour or whatever it is, and did stuff on my own. And pretty much dad and grandpa just wanted me to get a sense of what it took to farm, the financial side of everything. And that's when I started really getting really deep into it. Doing my own stuff really made me feel more important, less than just being a hired hand and doing what dad or grandpa tell you. It really woke something up in me to where I really wanted to take more responsibility and take off with it. The year after that, I ended up renting 50 acres from my dad. My grandpa, I just didn't rent the piece from him anymore. So I just helped him out, and I rented 25 more acres from my dad. So I'm at 50 acres that I rent. And then I've been doing that for, this will be my second year, just farming the 50 acres from dad. I do 50 acres on my own, and then I help dad with his stuff, and I help grandpa with his stuff. But the 50 acres of my own stuff is where I really dove into the technology. And that's where my whole experience with traction started. When I first started out with my 25 acres, I figured that, I don't have a lot of ground, but I kind of want to manage it to the most of my ability. So I tried to keep track of everything. I saw what my dad did. He had everything on paper. I'm pretty good with electronics and everything like that. Technology was pretty interesting to me. So I started out doing everything on a spreadsheet and learning all I could about accounting from college and anything I could find online. So I made a spreadsheet the first year trying to do all my accounting, and that was really hard. I did it, but it was just a pain in the butt. So then the second year, when I picked up more ground, I went to QuickBooks, and QuickBooks was a tricky one for me. It was nice to enter the stuff in there, but it didn't really mesh with the farming side of things. I had a lot of problem with inventory and grain and all kinds of stuff like that. So it just wasn't really what I was looking for. And then my third year, which would have been my first year in college, is when I just started doing free trials of every farm accounting software I could find. And then I stumbled upon you guys. I listened to a Farm for Profit episode. One of you guys' people was on there from Traction, and I started a free trial there. And at the end of it, I'd put all of my stuff in and started to put all of my dad's stuff in too, just because I liked it so much. It kind of took off from there. And ever since then, I've been keeping books for my dad. That was kind of like the first big project he gave me, responsibility wise, was to put all of our physical records and all our books onto the electronic on a Traction. I actually just recently finished up with that, being my first project here lately. I'm finally caught up as of the end of August. I'm pretty excited to have electronic records of stuff. We actually had a pre-tax meeting this year before our end of year tax meeting me and my dad did for the farm. That's pretty exciting to have everything together this year and not have to get all the books out in the beginning of December and scramble everything together.
The tax planning meeting was exciting. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, it was nice to know our numbers ahead of time a little bit. Just my experience. My dad, since I've been 18, he's taken me to these tax planning meetings just to get a feel for it or whatnot. Usually every year it's all stressful, like the week before. Dad's getting all the receipts out. We're putting everything in the book and trying to get our numbers straight. And we finally get there. And then you find out that, oh, man, if we don't spend some money, our tax bill is going to be this big. And then it's about a mad dash to the finish line at the end of the year, trying to get everything where we need it to be. This year, a lot more calm. We got everything together. We know where we're at, and it's a lot of peace of mind. So I'm glad that coming back to the farm, I can make some difference in my first year at least. Going from just dad on the farm to me and dad, it's been a pretty big help.
You mentioned at your age being involved with technology. How is the technology on the farm now compared to what it was before you came back to the farm?
Yeah, so before I came back to the farm, we didn't have a ton of technology at all. We run, I wouldn't say older equipment. Early 2000s is about the newest stuff that we have on the farm. It's in that range where it doesn't come preloaded with like the GPS and all that stuff, but you can retrofit it. And my grandpa on his farm, he doesn't have any of that stuff either. So like all of our equipment, like on the row crop side, there wasn't really any technology in that other than our combine has like a yield monitor, and that was pretty much about it. Whenever I came back, I took some of my own money and got some GPS on the farm. So we got precision technology now, which is pretty exciting. Through John Deere or whatever, we've got a globe and a monitor. This year we'll have yield maps for all our fields, and we can be able to do all kinds of cool stuff with that. Having GPS and the combine is going to be really nice, not having to drive. And then this next spring will be the first spring actually not having to freehand plant everything. So we should have pretty straight rows. And then also, like I said, Traction doing accounting. I can just look stuff up real quick. The other thing that I brought was just spreadsheets. Like I'm a big spreadsheet guy. I make spreadsheets for pretty much everything. I've got like a cash flow spreadsheet, grain spreadsheet. For our hog side, we've got like all the sow numbers and everything. We're trying to keep data that way too. So lots and lots of spreadsheets.
What's the learning curve like for your dad on some of this GPS?
I'm pretty lucky that dad's pretty accepting a lot of my ideas. He was pretty young when he took over too. His dad was in his 60s whenever he graduated from college, started farming. So he had to kind of man up pretty quick and take it over because his dad retired pretty young for a farmer. I feel like that's the culture in farming sometimes is the older generation holds on to it for a really long time. And then whenever you're about 50 or so is when you start really getting to make all the decisions. But for dad, he was about 30 years old when he had everything on him. He's always tried to gear me towards taking more responsibility at a younger age because he thinks that since I'm younger, I've got more free time and more energy to work at stuff that I'm interested in and really take on some responsibility. He's willing to learn. It just takes a little bit to teach him. The traction accounting software, he kind of lets me handle that. And I'm slowly trying to teach him how to use it for if he wants to get into some stuff. But the GPS, he's really took to pretty well, honestly. The John Deere guy came out and when he installed it and everything, walked us both through it. He definitely lets me take the lead on it, but if he has to use it himself, he can make his way pretty fine. It's pretty much just like running a smartphone. So he figures stuff out pretty good. He's pretty good on his cell phone. Now, my grandpa, on the other hand, he doesn't want any part of it. He just lets that to me and dad. So
The cell phone's enough for your grandpa to handle.
yeah, he does have a smartphone though, and he can handle that pretty well, but he's only got pretty much just call, text, and that's about it on his. So not too many apps on grandpa's phone.
I guess I should back up. You got any siblings, or are you the only child?
Yeah, so I've got two younger siblings. I've got a sister that's a year younger, and then I've got a younger brother who's a senior in high school this year. My little brother's name's Jack. He's more in sports than I was when I was his age. I just played football, and he's a 3-sport athlete, so he pretty much doesn't get many breaks. So whatever free time he does have, he usually comes out and helps out too. He's at that age where he's still figuring out what he wants to do yet.
What age were you when you figured out that you wanted to farm full time?
I've been around it so much, especially when I was little. Like I was a kid that I was helping out in the barn pretty much as from when I could walk. So dad would always take me out there and I always played with tractors and stuff. So I kind of always knew that's what I wanted to do. It was more or less a thing of would I be able to do it? We're kind of a smaller farm, or at least on the smaller side, especially just at home here. Whenever you combine my grandpa's stuff, it definitely makes sense for two people to be at home. But I always knew that it was going to be tight. So I knew that I was going to have to kind of really earn my way into the farm rather than just kind of slide right on in after college. So I worked my butt off in high school trying to get good grades and get school paid for. And I did a pretty good job of that. Once I graduated college, I didn't want a bunch of debt and go have to get a job, like an office job somewhere or something to pay the bills. So I wanted to be pretty debt free. Once I graduated, I accomplished that. So it's pretty nice that I can do what I want right out of college. And I earned my spot at the farm with that anyway. So I didn't really need it, but it is definitely nice. But basically, to answer your question, I kind of always knew what I wanted to do. I always knew I wanted to farm. It was more or less the question of if there'd be room when I got out of school or not.
Did the farm have to make any adjustments to make room for you? I know some farms, when they bring in the first child or whatnot, they have to add on some entities. How has that worked for your family?
Yeah, pretty much. Whenever I was younger, dad had 125 sows like we do right now. He always had a hired hand. And then whenever I started coming up, especially when I was in high school, he dropped the hired hand and I was the hired hand. So that worked pretty good. But then when I went to college, I went away. I'd come back on weekends and stuff when we were busy and help out as much as I could, but I wasn't there on the day to day. He didn't get another hired hand. He dropped our sow numbers a little bit just to keep up with everything. So we were in that 80 range instead of 125. So things weren't quite as busy anymore. He still had plenty of cash flow and everything like that. So whenever I came back, we upped our sow number back up to where we were whenever I was in high school or whatever, back at about the 125 range. I still live at home, but now since I'm done with school, I've got all my own stuff. Dad doesn't have to pay for me to eat and sleep all the time. That kind of opened some odds and ends up for him. But like I said, we just upped our sound number a little bit. And then I really focused on the agronomy side a lot in college. We've been upping our yields in the past 3 or 4 years. That really helped quite a bit too, I think. More or less, it just took us working a little bit harder at the agronomy and then raising our sound number up a little bit more. And that was pretty much all we needed for me to slide in there. So pretty thankful for that.
Walk me through this sow operation because that sounds like a lot of work.
It definitely is. We've got our breeding silos and outside concrete lots, and then we've got like little lean-tos at the back that we put straw bales in. So they've got like a nice little place to stay out of the sun and out of the weather and everything like that. Dad built those back in the 90s. Back then, he didn't have the money to build a big gestation barn. We used to just have like pasture sows where all our breeding was, they were all in pasture. He didn't like putting up fence and taking it down a lot. So he built these lots with these lean-tos, and we take buckets and we hand feed them every day, and that works pretty good for us. It's pretty low cost. With group housing, the pigs are happy. They run around. We've got sprinklers out there for whenever it's really hot, and whenever it's really cold, we put an extra bale of straw in there and they all hunker down. Outside, we've got a couple pens out there. I think there's 7 pens and anywhere from 20 to 30 sows in each. And then in every pen, we keep a boar just for like natural breeding and everything like that. Basically, if we can't artificially inseminate a sow, then they kind of pick up our slack. So that's more like our slack adjuster, pretty much, is our boars out there. And then indoors, we've got our farrowing house, and our nursery is all in one barn. There's 2 farrowing rooms and 2 nurseries. We've got 24 farrowing crates. So we try to keep those full as much as we can. Then me and dad will wean 6 pit sows a week. We try to wean. So we try to keep a pretty decent flow going, and obviously hitting vaccinations, everything like that. On the feeding side too, inside in those farrowing crates, we hand feed them yet. It's something coming down the line. We'd like to get some automatic sow feeders, but right now we hand feed them. And then once the pigs go over to the nursery, they've all got automatic feeders in the nurseries. So that's really nice. Not a ton of work there. It's a lot of power washing. Once a group goes through, we'll power wash either crates or nursery floors, stuff like that. Pretty much it's a continuous flow operation. Once 6 sows farrow, we try to keep them grouped up a little bit, but 6 sows farrow, we'll wash the crates, we'll breed the sows, and then another group hopefully comes in right behind them. It pretty well just never stops. It's always going. There's always something to do. We feed our farrowing sows once in the morning and once at night. We get up at 6 in the morning and feed, and then the last thing we do at night is that we finish feeding. But it works pretty good for us. Outside sows, where all our breeding sows are, so there's the 125 sows, and we've got about 7 or 8 boars out there. We feed those once a day in the morning. We just feed them with buckets. We throw them out on the concrete there, and they eat real good. That works pretty nice. And then in the nurseries, like I said, that's connected. It's all automatic fed. We just got like bulk tanks outside that we just got to keep full. And other than that, it works pretty slick. And then our finishing barn, they built that in like the 80s. So it's pretty old, but it still gets the job done. We've got about 20 pens in there. We try to keep pretty full. We usually are selling about 35 or 40 hogs a week out of there and keeping it turning. So a lot of scraping out pens and cleaning stuff up there. We've got 2 bulk bins outside of feed. We got to keep them full too. So pretty much the daily routine is feed pigs in the morning, then check all the tanks, and we grind our own feed. It's like our natural hedge against corn prices is we grind our own feed here at the farm and feed it to the pigs. So it all kind of works in unison with one another. We've got like an archway grinder. We grind feed for the pigs, mix it all ourselves and everything like that. And then we've got a big bean meal tank that we buy usually a load of bean meal every 4 months or so. Every 3 or 4 months, we mix all our feed up ourselves. So we save some money there too. And we're always feeding pigs, grinding feed, vaccinating, moving some stuff around. We're never bored in the wintertime.
I hear those sows are pretty friendly.
If you're weaning, they're not too happy. They get a little defensive whenever you take their babies or you're sticking them with a needle.
I want to hear some stories about these aggressive sows. My dad's told me some from when he was a kid.
Oh man, I vividly remember one time. It was one of the first times I was moving sows with dad. So since we've got the sows outside, obviously they're in groups. So when we need to move them around, we got one person that operates the gate, and then somebody goes in there with a board and sorts her out, and then we walk her into the barn or whatever. I was feeling big and bad. I was in like 7th grade, and I was like, I'm gonna move this sow or whatever. It was actually a gilt. So it was her first time walking into the barn and everything. So she wasn't really familiar with it. And we get up to where the barn door is and it bottlenecks, and she didn't want to go in there. So she turned around and just started running the other way. Well, I had the board. It's just a plywood board that we were using. So I got in front of her and she didn't stop. She just kept going. So she just kept running. And I put the board out and she broke that in half. And I just pretty well bailed out of there. The board flew apart there, but we just had to gather ourselves back up, get a new board, and then just had to do some convincing to get her back in the crate.
How big are some of these sows you have?
We'll have them farrow 4 or 5 times before we ship them off to a secondary market or whatever. By the time they have their 5th litter, they're usually pretty big. They're 400 or 500 pound sows, so they're pretty large. My favorite are the gilts, just because they're smallest. They come out of the barn usually about 280, and then by the time they have their first group, they're about 300, a little over that. They're a little bit less scary. You know what I'm saying? When I was in 7th grade, she was pretty scary, but nowadays it's really not the end of the world to get in front of her. The only thing with gilts is they take a little convincing. They're not used to everything quite yet. The boars are the scary ones. You don't want to mess with them.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Usually they're pretty nice, especially the ones that we use to heat check. They're pretty fine. After we wean pigs, we'll wait 5 days and then we'll run a boar in and heat check them or whatever. And the ones that are in heat, we'll AI those. And then, like I said, if we don't get the AI to stick, the boars usually pick up the slack outside. But the boars we use to run inside and heat check, they're pretty decently nice. But by the time those boars get old, they get pretty big and they get some tusks on them. But usually they're in a good mood, but man, if they're not in a good mood, you better be ready to jump over a fence or something. You don't usually keep them around long enough for them to get that mean, but I've seen it.
What do you mean heat check? I kind of have an idea, but
Yeah,
obviously they know
so
when this sow or gilt's in heat, but how do you stop them from breeding there before AI?
yeah, when we wean the sows, we keep them in the crates for 5 days. That's about whenever they're gonna be in heat. If you're gonna try to AI the sows, they're not just gonna take right away. They need something to naturally stimulate them and get the blood flowing a little bit. So what we'll do is we'll get a boar from outside and we'll run them into the barn and we'll lay some feed out in the alleyway between the crates and we'll let him just get some nose to nose with the sows. And then you push on their back and make sure they're in good heat before you stick them with AI. If they're not staying in good, then they're not going to take it anyway. So you don't want to waste some money on it because it's some pretty expensive stuff. But yeah, our heat check boars are the best behaved because they know they'll lose their job. It's a pretty cushy job for them.
They're not in the crate with the sows?
No, when we AI the sows, we just let the boars in the alleyway and me and dad are the ones servicing at the back of the crates. So that works pretty good. And then once we kick the sows outside into their groups, then they'll be with the boar outside too. The boars, they just pick up the slack to say if we stuck a girl with AI, say she comes back into heat, the way our process works, we're not going to bring her back into the barn and try to AI her again, pretty much. And it's going to be hard for us to even tell that she didn't stick until pretty much 3 months later when we're expecting a litter and one's not there. We use the boars to heat check the ones that we wean. And then once we kick them all out, then they're all in the same group with the boars. So we don't keep the boars separate. They're always in contact with their group of sows or whatever.
If sow takes the AI, she won't come back into heat again.
Nope. If she takes, then about 3 months, 3 weeks, and 3 days later, she should be back in the farrowing barn giving a pretty nice litter. Usually we get about 90% stick rate or so. So usually every 12 sows that we AI, usually, 2 or 3 of them, we might not get a stick. So instead of having to figure out and going back through and heat checking them again, we just keep them in a pen with a boar. That way, if she comes back into the heat, he'll figure it out and then he'll service her, and it throws our schedule off just a little bit, but you're never going to be perfect.
So when they get ready to drop this litter, are they pretty good about not losing any? Are gilts more likely to lose some from the first litter?
Yeah, usually gilts, they'll have more death loss just because they have harder time birthing the first time. So you got to watch them. But honestly, most of your death loss just comes from the sows like sitting on them, which is a really big problem. So we've got crate inserts that we put in the back of the crates. That way, basically the sow hits that little insert before she hits the back of the crate. Because a lot of the times the young ones will be like coming around behind her and then she'll sit back on the back of the crate and pinch them. We have like little inserts to stop that. And ever since we started using those little inserts, it's really done pretty good. Our number is always try to keep pre-wean mortality under 10%. So if we can do that, we're doing pretty good. And we've been hitting that number, especially since I've been around to help dad, just because having a one-man show, especially during our busy time out in the field, like in the spring and the fall, dad would always say that the sows got corn and bean fever. He just wasn't around as much or have as much time to really hit on the chores 100%. So usually you'd see our production dip just a little bit. We've been doing pretty good here lately.
Sounds like you need to expand that operation as much as you like the sows.
It's nice. What's limiting us right now is just barn capacity pretty much, and the finishing barn. That's on the list of things, is just to go through and maybe put some money where my mouth is and put up a barn or something like that. So it would definitely help with our manure. We use the hog manure in the farrowing barn and the nursery. They all have crates with concrete pits underneath them. And then our finishing barn has a big concrete pit underneath it too. So all that liquid manure We tank that out to our fields and everything like that. Free fertilizer for us. That really helps out with our costs. We can usually save about $120 an acre just by using our manure. I oversee a lot of the crop side of things, so that makes me want more manure.
You're taking them all the way and finishing them out and taking them to
Yep.
processing plant.
Yeah. Yep. We've got a guy that buys about 30 or 35 a week. He's pretty close to us. Honestly, for our size, finding a place to go with them is usually the hardest thing, just because we can't provide a full semi-load a week or whatever. Selling 35 a week, we used to go to like the local butcher shop and they would buy them. We did that for a few years. And then right after COVID, it got really hard to find places. So we just actually started driving straight to like the packing plant, like what you said. There's one in Rantoul, Illinois. It's about a 2.5 hour drive from here. So it's far away for us to go. It would kill about half a day for Dad to drive all the way up there and all the way back down. We did that for about 2 years. And then here lately, we found a guy pretty close to us that we kind of pool with to get semi loads. So pretty much he'll buy hogs from us and then ship them up north wherever they go. So that's been a pretty good little deal for us lately here.
So once they get into the finishing barn, it's a little bit easier.
Yeah. Your sows take up 75% of our time, pretty much. So obviously feeding them twice a day on the inside, the farrowing ones, and the outside sows, we got to feed once a day in the morning. That usually takes about a half hour. Takes a half hour to feed in the morning, takes a half hour to feed at night for the farrowing barn, and then takes about another half hour in the morning to feed outsides. An hour and a half of our day every day, hour and a half of man hours. Usually me and Dad split it up. Dad feeds insides and I feed outsides, or vice versa. Get it knocked out in about an hour or so. And then we'll start checking tanks. And if I got to grind a couple ton of feed, then that usually takes about another good 45 minutes or so. So usually the first about 2 hours of our day is all dealing with sows and grinding feed, no matter what happens. And then after that, we attack whatever's on the list that day. Pretty much once we wean pigs and they go to the nursery, it gets a lot easier because then you're just watching feed and keeping them warm and everything like that. And once they go from the nursery to the finishing barn, pretty slick there. All we got to do is give them shots. We give them shots once when they get in, and then another time whenever they get just a little bit bigger. Once we get through with shots and everything like that, then all there is to it is just kind of going through the barn twice a day, once in the morning, once at night, check and see if anybody's sick, anybody needs shots, pulling any deads out, anything like that. And then whenever we sell them, we got to obviously sort and sell and everything like that. And then usually we'll keep a few gilts back as sows and weigh them, ear tag them, and put them outside. Any sows, after their fourth or fifth litter, if their numbers are dropping off, then load them up on the trailer and ship them out too. It never stops, and it's good income flow for us too, which is really nice. Helps us size our operating loan a little bit. That's usually about a couple grand a week coming in hog revenue. So it kind of spaces things out. As the big grain operations, you might have a month where you don't sell any grain, and then you got a month where you sell a couple $100,000 worth.
I grew up on a big livestock farm. I imagine once you get to planting and harvest season, it's a little bit harder to get going on the row crops in the morning.
Yep, it's pretty well nuts. Like I said, ever since I came back, he pretty much heads up the hog side and I head up the row crop side. In the mornings, we'll get up, we'll talk about what we got to do that day, and then we'll go out, we'll feed. We always feed together just to get that wiped out pretty quick. And then once we get that done, if he's got something he needs to do inside that's high priority, then he'll do that while I get some stuff ready, like any of the equipment or whatever. And then usually by about 9 or 10 o'clock, depending on the day, he'll head out and help me with field work and everything like that. So in the spring and the fall, we usually start a little bit earlier in the morning. That way we can get all our hog work done, all our hog chores, and then hit the field. Having 2 guys out in the field has been a big help too this year, just running seed or parts or anything like that, and having 1 guy in the tractor. And Dad's not really a big fan of tractor work either. He gets bored. I like it a lot, so I'm usually the tractor guy, especially this year, like in side dress season. We had kind of a pretty tight window. So 2 days in a row, he just did all the feeding himself. And I just got up, got in the tractor, and got going right away. We can split our work pretty evenly. It's pretty nice. He used to get pretty stressed out during fall and spring whenever I wasn't home.
You mentioned that you and your dad sit around and decide what you're going to do for the day. You guys have breakfast together or drink some coffee?
Pretty much. I live in the house that we grew up in. It's right here on the farm. And then whenever I was in 7th grade, mom and dad, our family was getting a little bit bigger and kind of outgrew this one. They built a house, and this is why I call it the farmhouse. And then their house, I always call it the new house. So they built a house and they kept this one here. And my grandma was supposed to move into it right away. She had lived in town and she had wanted to come back and live back in the farmhouse here. We all moved to the new house, and then grandma actually broke her hip. So then her doctor didn't want her to move into a new house, and it didn't have all the handicap accessible stuff that her house did in town. This house just sat empty for a while, and dad just used it as the farm office. We had all our books here, and we've got a laundry room and everything. We always did hog laundry in the basement. We had a separate washer and dryer just to keep all that separate because, you don't want that mixing in with your regular clothes. We used this house just as like home base for a long time. And then whenever I went to school, I went to community college for my first 2 years. Mom wanted me to get the college experience. Since I wasn't going to move into a dorm, our community college is about 20 minutes away. She's had me move in over here. I pretty much cleaned the place up a little bit, bought some furniture and a TV or whatever, and I've been living here ever since. That's one of the perks of the job. Pretty much I wake up in the morning, and then dad heads over here too, because we keep all of our hog clothes in the basement. We get over here, we get up, we eat breakfast, get changed, got the news on or whatever, try to catch the weather, and we discuss it pretty much over breakfast. Then
Sounds like The Ranch. You seen that show? Sounds just like it. Hopefully your dad's not that
animated.
Yeah, animated.
No,
It's probably a good deal for him that he doesn't have to keep the stinky hog clothes in his house.
Yeah, that was one of mom's big pet peeves for a long time. We've always kept it separate, but at least it's not in her basement anymore. I tend to not care as much. We get in from outside. We wash our clothes every day. That way they don't stink the place up or whatnot. It works pretty good.
Just wait till you have a lady move in with you.
Yeah, that'll be something. So we'll figure it out when it gets there, though.
So when you went to SIU, were you living in the dorms?
I transferred in as a junior, and I transferred in with some buddies of mine that went to KC with me. We just got an apartment there or whatever. So we all three lived together. It worked out pretty good. I lived for pretty cheap in an apartment, and I'd come back on the weekends or whatever, especially in the fall and the spring, help dad out. It worked pretty good. I'd already known how to live on my own and all that from living here during KC. Got a little bit of the real world with living with roommates and everything like that. And then when I came back home here, I pretty much moved in for good. So
Never leaving.
that's right. I hope not. You never know what's in the cards. I hope to stay here for a while. So I pretty well like where I'm at.
Let's back up a little bit. So you talked a little bit about helping your dad out when you were younger and all that stuff. What are some of the earliest memories you have with your dad? I'm assuming you probably weren't working very hard at that point.
No, not really. Pretty much from the time I could walk, the farm's just right in the backyard here. So I just walk out and see what dad was up to. So he would always pretty much bring me in the tractor. And my earliest memory would probably be riding in the combine for the first time. I just always took a liking to that. He put me in the buddy seat, and I always remember riding around with him, shelling corn and everything like that. Just riding in equipment for the most part. And then when I was little, I'd always go out in the hog lot with him and get dirty or whatever.
Now, when you think about following your dad around as a kid riding the equipment, kids like the equipment, but there's just something about being with your dad out there and big toys and hopefully a cooler full of snacks for you.
Yeah, yep. Always had to have the cooler. Even now I'm 22 and I still like to play with the big toys. It just never goes away.
How old were you when he first started trusting you running the equipment?
Oh man, I started driving like our little auger tractor around the yard when I was in like 3rd or 4th grade. He taught me how to use that, just kind of putt around or whatever. And the first thing he ever had me do was like hauling dry manure. We had like a dry manure spreader on our littlest tractor we had. It's a Alice Chalmers 185, 80 horsepower. I couldn't really do too much damage on that thing hauling dry manure. That's the first thing I ever did, and I kind of upgraded from there. I started running like our grinder tractor. He taught me how to grind feed pretty young. Once I was in like 8th grade, I was grinding feed on my own. I'd say whenever I was in about 7th grade, he started trusting me with like field work. He put me in the field cultivator and figured I couldn't really screw too much up there either. So I started doing field work when I was in 7th grade. And then in 8th grade, he taught me how to run the combine. Once I was in high school, it was pretty much a little bit of everything. And then obviously once I got my driver's license, I was driving grain truck and everything like that too. My grandpa, I helped my grandpa out, my mom's dad. So it's a separate farm, but I still help out. My mom's the only child, so he doesn't have a ton of help. he always had me up there. And with Grandpa, it was always kind of trial by fire. He needed something done. He was, this is how it works, and this is what we're going to do today. So I was driving his pickup truck around when I was like 13 years old on back roads or whatever. I've always been in the thick of it.
You still have that 185 around?
Yeah, it runs auger for us. So it's a good little workhorse tractor. One of those that just never seems like you could get rid of it. Just always has a job on the farm everywhere. So any season pretty well. It always runs auger for us in the fall or whenever we're hauling grain, and it runs our manure pump and stuff like that too. Gets ran hard and put away wet a little bit. It keeps kicking.
I drive one once in a while, like once a year. So my neighbor back home has one. And if I need to do something on the food plot, I'll use his. And it's confusing, like the whole high, low. And
Yep.
you would think one high would be slower than three low, but it's not. It gets kind of
Nah.
weird with some of that stuff.
Oh yeah, it's the old stick shift, and like you said, it's got the high low and all kinds of knobs that nothing's really labeled. You just kind of got to figure it out. So
Which one's the PTO? And
right, yep, and all the hydraulics, you have no clue which one does what. It does its job as long as you know where the PTO is and the clutch is. That's pretty much all that matters on her.
does that have a cab on it?
No, it's open station, so no cab or nothing like that. It hauls our dry manure too every once in a while. I still get a little taste of field work with no cab every once in a while.
I was going to say, the one I drive has a cab, and having a cab on an auger tractor is not very fun most of the time.
No, we've got a John Deere 2755, and that's got a cab on it, and it's one of those that somebody put a cab on a tractor that probably just shouldn't have a cab. You know, everything's kind of crammed in there weird, and the AC doesn't work. The radio doesn't work. So in the summertime, it's just hot. It'd be better off if it didn't have one.
You said that's a 2755?
Yeah, it's a weird little model. My grandpa bought it, and I think it was like 1990 or something like that. It was the first green machinery we had on the farm. He brought it brand new. They were made in Germany. I know that because serial number and the tag and everything, a bunch of it's in German. It's like a 4040 size tractor. Like it's got a cab on it. It's an interesting little deal. It's our grinding tractor. It runs our Artsway grinder, so it gets the lion's share of work. It gets ran pretty much every other day.
Yeah, I had to look it up because I'm pretty sure my dad had a 2760.
Oh, really?
It was an older tractor, probably 60s or 70s. Yours looks a little bit newer, I think.
Yeah, I think it's like an 80 something model. I think.
Does it have front wheel assist?
No, nope. It's just 2-wheel drive, so it doesn't have the front wheel assist at all. It doesn't ever really get that muddy.
So that Alice Chalmers, is that the oldest tractor you have on the farm now?
Yeah, that's the oldest one that's still kind of in service. That's not retired. We've got like a Alice Chalmers D17, and that just sits at the back of the shed. It hasn't done a whole lot lately. It runs, but we don't use it for just too much.
We got one.
Huh.
Ours runs on LP.
Oh, really? This one's
Yeah.
a gasser. It's the only gas tractor we have, but yeah, it's a good little tractor. We used to use it to ditch all the time. It broke down 2 or 3 years ago. The clutch went out in it, and Dad just put it in the shed, and we haven't really got back on top of that anymore. She's pretty well semi-retired, but that 185 is the smallest one we've got that still kind of pulls a lot of the load.
I'll have to look. I know my grandpa bought that D17 in 58, brand new. It's amazing how old it is, and we still use it on the auger every year. My grandpa, when he was getting up there, my dad's like, I'm going to restore this before he passes. Now he just doesn't take care of it, but it still gets used. Auger, thrown on the mower.
We used to mow with it all the time. It actually had an underbelly mower at one point, my dad said. That was their lawn mower.
Does it have the wide wheelbase or the narrow?
It's a wider wheelbase.
It's not like the WD-40s with like a three-wheeler.
No, it's not a 3-wheel. It's got the regular 2 fronts on it. We've got a smaller Alice Chalmers. I don't even know what number it is that's in the back of the shed too. That's got like the 2 tight wheels at the very front. My grandpa's got a bunch of Oliver tractors. He's like a big Oliver and white guy. He's got a bunch of Olivers that are real nice. We love those tractors for like augers and stuff just because you can get them in such tight spots and they run real good. He's got one. It's like a Oliver Super 66 or something. It's a gasser. And it's like the only thing that ever fires up in the wintertime. If you need a tractor that it'll start whenever it's cold, that's the first thing that we always go to.
Yeah, it's amazing how many of these farms have the old tractors. So we have a D17 and a 4020. They're both wide wheelbase, but you can turn those things on a dime.
Oh, yeah. Yep. No power steering probably, though.
No,
Nope.
the reason I ask about the narrow wheelbase, because it's always seemed like those ones with the belly mower had, I call them a three-wheeler. They got two wheels in front.
Yep.
Those couldn't
Yeah,
have been very safe.
not at all. My dad tells a story that it was like the second time he ever ran it. He used to cut the grass here. His mom and dad lived here before we did. He was cutting the grass in the front yard one time with that D17 with the belly mower. He was maneuvering or whatever, looking behind him, didn't look in front, and he ran over one of her rose bushes or something and got in a pretty good amount of trouble. So
What kind of tractors do you guys primarily run on the farm now?
we're all green now. Our tillage tractor is an 8520. That's my favorite tractor. That's the one I drive the most and drove a lot growing up. It's really nice. Dad bought it 2006 or 2008. It's the newest tractor we have on the farm, and it's super nice. It does all our heavy pulling. And then we've got an 8300 that's our planting tractor. So it pulls our planter. It does a good job too. And then we've got a 4650. That was like my dad's first tractor that he grew up on. It works real good. It was like one of their early power shift tractors. So it's not the quad range. The transmission skips a gear every once in a while.
I don't know if we have both of them. I say we, like I don't really farm anymore, but a 4555 and a 4760 where it's just 1 through 16. Like,
Yep. With a thumb, you can basically just bump it with your thumb or whatever.
yeah, it's not like the new ones where it's
No, it's got like a
literally
big
with your
handle and
thumb.
1 through 16. Yep, on the side there. It's funky. It works for a long time, and now fifth gear's out of it or something like that, to where if you're going, you're bumping through them, and all of a sudden you hit fifth, it just goes into neutral.
Some of the gears shift a little bit easier than others.
Yeah, yep, that's for sure too. All of a sudden you'll hit it, and it waits a little bit, and then it takes off. I really like that 4650. I think it's just a cool tractor. You know, it's got the old sound guard cab in it. It's real loud, got black smoke and everything like that. I don't think they ever did tune it up. Dad was always scared about blowing something out of it or whatever. It used to be our planting tractor back in the day until we got the 8300, and then it started doing all that.
You guys do any of that tuning on your tractors?
Dad was never like he doesn't wrench around just a ton. We repair as much as we can on the farm, and we do a lot of stuff with the planter and the combine, go through them and all that. But he's not as much as like a motorhead at turning stuff up and doing all that. He doesn't really want to mess anything up. Got buddies that do.
You can get quite a bit of horsepower out of them. We have, I say, older tractors. They probably are older tractors. Our newest one's an 8430. And my dad was always kind of hesitant about putting a chip in anything, but they'll program and get an extra 70 horsepower out of these tractors anymore.
Oh, yeah. I was at the Farm Progress show like a couple weeks ago. There's like Steinbauer and everything like that, where you can still chip even like the newest stuff and get more horse out of them. If I had anything with DEF in it on the farm, I'd probably do that. Like our pickup trucks and stuff. Like we've got an old farm truck, not really old, but it's a F250. It had DEF in it and it was giving us a bunch of problems.
You talk like it's an old truck and it still got DEF.
Yeah, it was one of the first ones that had it. It just gave us a bunch of trouble. It pulls our livestock trailer. We got rid of that, and man, it's like a whole new machine.
If you're hauling hogs that far, you probably have to have something pretty decent.
Oh, yeah. The 250 we used to haul hogs with, and then once we started doing longer hauls, and Dad got a 450 with duals on it from one of his buddies, used to do cattle, and he quit and sold it to my dad. So we used that for a long time when we were making those long runs, and now that we're back to selling closer to home, it's just interchangeable pretty much. He actually passed the 250 to me. That's my truck I run around in, and then he's got his truck as the 450. Pretty much depends on the day what truck gets hooked up to the gooseneck or not.
When I had an original job out of college, they had this old beater. I shouldn't say old beater. This was probably 2015, and this was a 1997 F250.
Yeah.
Power stroke, had less than 35,000 miles on it.
Holy cow.
I'm like, Dad, they're selling this. You need to buy it. Trust me, it's in good shape. And that's probably been around the farm for 10 years, but it's a dually flatbed, 97, and it's got the rear axle for pulling. It's not like a modern diesel where you hammer down. It's like, hold on. She'll pull, but it's a manual transmission. Just doesn't feel like a lot of power, but we got a little turn dial chip. So if you want 25, 50, She'll blow some black smoke, man.
I bet you will. That sounds like a perfect farm truck right there. We got a 1997. I think it's a 250. It's either a 250 or 350, but it's a gas. That's what Dad used to use all the time. It's like a teal blue color. It's a weird looking color, but that's like our farm truck. Farm truck. We got a fuel tank on the back of it, a bunch of tools. It does good.
Yeah, some of those square bodies, the
Yeah.
diesels, they're worth a lot of money now, especially the 4 doors.
This is just a 2-door bench seat, but it does its job. It was always getting used hauling hogs, so it probably wouldn't be worth that much on the resale market unless you ripped pretty much everything on the inside out of it. It's pretty ripe in there, but it is a manual. I like driving it just because it's the stick or whatever.
I gotta show you this picture. I don't know when this picture was taken, but that was my grandpa before he passed away on the only brand new tractor he ever bought.
Really?
So that's where you put the LP at right there.
So that's the D17?
Yep.
Nice.
It's not in that good a shape anymore.
You see some of these farms where they got their stuff washed, waxed all the time. And when I got out of college, I was like, I'm going to come back to the farm and I'm going to get all that done. And I still haven't found a day to do any of that quite yet. I got stuff power washed, but it isn't super shiny.
I'd be the same way, but at the same time, if you restored like an older tractor, I'd probably keep pretty good.
Yeah, 100%. My grandpa's got 3 Olivers. He's got a 66, a 77, and an 88 that he restored. When I was little, he did that, and they're pretty well just show tractors now. He keeps them under tarps, and it's like a do not use this for work type thing. So,
are they in the shop too?
Yeah, they're in his shop. Yep.
In the shop under a tarp, huh?
Yeah, he takes them out every once in a while, parades or whatever. He pretty much said if anything happens to him, do not get rid of those. So those are pretty much family heirlooms.
Are they restored?
Yeah, he restored them. I thought he said like 2008 or something like that. He got neck surgery when I was younger, and he was off work for a while and he didn't have anything else to do. So he like repainted them and went through them and put all kinds of new parts and everything like that. So they're in really good shape.
Does he ever hook them up to a sled at a tractor pull?
He loves going to tractor pulls, but he always said that he would never pull any of his stuff at him.
A little worried about his craftsmanship putting them together after restoring them.
Yeah, me and him have put a lot of clutches in a lot of tractors before. He can tear them apart, man. We've split a bunch of those old Olivers and worked on them, but he doesn't really love doing it all the time. So it's just one of those necessity things. He's had a couple guys. He's got 2 Oliver 1850s, and there's like these tractor pull guys that wanted him to do like farm stock or whatever. And he's big no to that. So he doesn't want his tractors getting beat up.
Is your grandpa still around?
Yep. My grandpa, my dad's side, is not around anymore. He passed away when I was in 6th grade. But my grandpa, my mom's side, he farms yet. He's 70. He'll be 75 this year, and he's still kicking. He's got a neighbor who's 85 and still farms by himself. He's only got 100 acres or whatever. You see him still out ranching around on stuff, and he said that's his goal is to still be going when he's his age.
Does your grandpa run any equipment anymore?
Yeah, he actually is like still super aware with everything. I started helping him out when I was in high school. Like I said, he had neck surgery, so whenever we put stuff away in the shed with him, he usually needs 2 people to do anything like that, but he still runs combine and stuff like that. He plants. He's still able to do everything. He usually has me help him if he can. That way he doesn't have to, but he gets done anything he wants to nowadays. He still gets around fine. He doesn't use like a walker or anything like that. He's got like a little bit of a limp. Like lately, the only thing that he's ever really slowed down with is he just forgets stuff every once in a while that he maybe used to not. In the past couple of years, he's pretty much just showing me the ropes on everything just in case something would happen. We're pretty much going to let him run it until he says that he can't anymore. So
still mows his own yard and all that stuff.
Oh yeah. Yep. Usually he has grandma do that. So she's a little bit younger than he is. She likes to mow the lawn. So that's like her main job other than watering the flowers and all that.
Does she have a nice mower?
Yeah, they got a nice one. They got a John Deere 0-turn. It's pretty sweet. She flies around on that thing all the time. So
hopefully it's got a good suspension for her.
Oh yeah, it's top of the line. Anything grandma does, if she wants something, it's not really ask. So grandpa supplies her with whatever keeps her happy.
She has the nicer vehicle and all that stuff.
Oh yeah, yep. Grandpa, man, he's Got a Chevy Custom 20 that my mom claims he had when she was born that he uses as his farm truck. He calls it like the beater. The bed rusted out of it, so they've just got like a custom wood bed on the back with all his tools, and it starts with a screwdriver.
He's still driving that?
Yeah, it's his beater.
Was
He
that
goes
like
from
1970s or 80s?
It's probably early 70s. It's old. Nobody else knows how to run it other than him.
That's probably before the Scottsdales even.
I would have to look. Let me look what. Yeah, it's older than that. That might be it. Like just right around there. I found a blue 81 Scottsdale that looks similar, but it's probably just a little bit older than that.
Dude, those things were sweet.
It's a sweet truck. It's a manual, but he's got tools on the back of that thing. The gas tank rusted off of it, so he's got like a external one that he like
An
mounted on the
external,
back.
looks
You
like
know,
he's
it's
hauling fuel to the field.
yeah. Yep, you think that, but that's just the gas tank. But it worked.
Now that I think of it, I think my dad had, I don't know what year, an old Scottsdale that ran on LP. I don't know if he had some fetish with LP after my grandpa had that D17 with LP, but
Yeah, no
he
joke.
had a truck
It
that
sounds
ran
like
on
you guys went
LP.
through a lot of LP, man. We go through quite a bit at our hog barns, so we usually don't like to mess with it with our tractors.
It seems odd, but I mean, forklifts run on LP.
Yeah. I don't know why they went to it. It seems like an older thing that they did for a while. Like you said, the forklifts do it. They burn clean inside, everything like that.
If you ever want to restore something, I'd go for that old truck of grandpa's.
I don't know. That might be past. It might be past going.
Really?
It's pretty rusted up and beat up, man. It gets ran hard. So I'd almost have to email you like a picture of it next time I'm up there. It's pretty comical. But
Take a lot of Bondo.
oh yeah. Yeah. Like the mirrors. I don't know where they ever went. You'd have to find some spare parts to restore that one pretty good. Like I said, it doesn't even have a bed on it anymore. They just they put like a custom wooden one back there. I guess the bed rested off of it or whatever. So he's got all his tools on there, man. It's like a mobile shop. It's pretty awesome.
Does he actually wrench on stuff, or is he just like to haul the
Oh
tools
yeah.
around?
Yeah, he wrenches on stuff yet still too. He's got a shop. They used to do hogs back in the day and they quit after the 90s, and he made like his old farrowing barn. He just poured concrete through the whole thing, and that's like his shop. So he works on all his stuff in there, and he still does a lot of the wrenching and stuff on his tractors. So he changes oil in them, keeps them pretty nice, in nice shape. He retired. He had a day job for a while and retired from that when I was in 6th or 7th grade. So ever since then, he'll go out to the shed in the morning and wrench on stuff and do chores around the place. They only do the row crop stuff. He's got a lot of time to go out there and make sure everything's in good shape. And actually, after this, later on tomorrow, I got to go up there and change concaves in his combine and get everything ready for harvest.
What's he got for a combine?
He's got a K1660. I think I got it wrote down in my phone. I think it's a 1660 that he's had for a long time, and that's what he runs. And then a couple of years ago, he picked up some more rent ground, and then he ended up buying a new combine, a bigger combine, because he was finishing up with harvest late. Yeah, it is a 1660, 1995 K1660. But he was finishing up late, and he needed some expenses that year, so he bought a 2388. That's a considerably bigger machine than what he had, and he doesn't really love running it just because it's not what he's used to. He's told me he's past the age of learning. He stuck me in that. So anytime that we shell corn and cut beans and stuff, I'm the head of that ship there. And it's a nice machine, man. It can go through some crop.
He'll let you run it. He just doesn't want to run it himself.
Yeah, he'll get that little 1660 out and he'll cut right there with me. He likes to run both.
I think the first combine I ever ran was a 1460.
Yeah.
But that was international. I don't know if they were separate at that time.
Probably, yeah. Yep. The one he's got's a Case IH. It was probably pretty shortly after the merger, I would assume.
Yeah, I didn't realize back when I was running it, probably mid-90s. It's probably pre-1980s.
Yeah.
Looking at pictures now. Man, it's just weird thinking about some of this stuff. So I'm 30, just turned 37, so some of this stuff is from 25 years ago already. Older than what you are.
Yeah, yep. Every single piece of equipment I run on Grandpa's farm, other than that new combine, and he's got a 4-wheel drive Steiger. Everything else is way older than me. He's got a lot of 80s equipment, like some whites and stuff like that. He's got like one of the original green Steigers. That thing's pretty sweet. If you want to talk about a confusing setup inside a tractor, just go into an old Steiger Cougar. It'll make your head spin.
I don't know if I've ever been around a white, but the tractors we had growing up were white cases. Did you know they used to make white cases?
Yeah, yep. Off-white cream case with the orange accent and everything like that.
Still have one, old Case 2090.
Really?
That's an auger tractor.
Yeah, yep. Grandpa's got a bunch of their two 185 whites. They're both his planting tractors.
Sounds like he's got a shop full of stuff that needs to be retired.
He's got a lot of tractors, man. He's got a lot of equipment, but it all runs still, and it runs pretty good. He takes his time making sure it all works good. He told me that he's old enough. He doesn't want to get in debt and buy more equipment. It doesn't cost him very much to repair it. It's pretty fair to me.
What about the neighborhood you live in? There are any other kids your age that are farming? Like in high school, did you have some farming buddies?
Yeah, I went to high school with a couple kids that farm too, and a lot of them now have like day jobs. They work in the trades or whatever. They've got family that farm and they help out whenever they can too. But I went to community college with 3 other kids that are all back at the farm too. So we're pretty tight and talk quite a bit. We're not from the same immediate area, but about an hour away from each other. We stay up to date with each other. You know, we've got like a group chat on Snapchat. We'll send pictures of funny stuff going on or talk about yields and how the crops look and everything like that. We got like a pretty good community around here too. We live like an hour east of St. Louis, so we're far enough away from the city to be away from all that. But also if you want to go to Cardinals games and Blues games and stuff like that, it's still fun to go out and do all that. I like where we're at. It's a good spot. And the neighborhood we're in, man, it's pretty rural. There's a lot of farmers, a lot of people in the area. They're pretty aware of farmers, and I feel like they respect us quite a bit. It's a nice place to be.
Does your dad let you off at the farm to go have fun?
Yeah, I try not to abuse it. You know what I'm saying? I try not to dip out on them all the time. But like this summer, I help out at our local high school. My brother plays football, and I used to play football. When I was at KC, I was on a scholarship and needed service hours. So I helped volunteer coach for the football team. This summer, I helped coach too a little bit just because I had some time and everything like that. Now football season's in full swing, so I told them I'd help out until harvest time. So this is actually my first week not coaching football. So the past couple weeks, I've been working until 3 o'clock and then heading to school.
You probably don't feel like a kid, but you're still a kid. You need to get out, get off the farm. And even my brother's 38, he still needs to get off the farm, spend time with family, do some fun stuff.
100%.
You hanging out primarily with kids you went to college with or high school?
A little bit of both. Like my high school friends are, for the most part, still around here. Obviously, we all just graduated from college and now we're kind of all coming back to the area. So that's cool. So lately, it's been a lot of like my high school buddies that I hang out with on the weekends. And every once in a while, usually my buddies from college will get together or something like that. So it's a good mix of both.
What do you guys do on the weekends?
A lot of the times we'll go out for dinner. There's a bar pretty close to where we live called Frank's, and they've got like the best bar food ever. So we'll go there and eat, watch some football or something, and then usually we'll either come back to one of our houses, and if it's like a college football night, we'll sit around and watch that, and then once the games get over, we'll go out on the town or whatever. And then a lot of the times after, we'll go to the high school football game on Friday nights if it's at home, and then go out. There's a sports bar pretty close. After that, we'll go out there and have a good time. And it just depends on the night. Sometimes we'll go to like St. Louis, go to like a Blues hockey game or like a Cardinal game or something like that too. So it just depends. One of my friends from high school went to the University of Alabama on a scholarship. Usually about once a year, we'll go down there for a football game too. So that's always a good time.
Looking back now, it's probably high school when I was thinking about this, just cruising around, driving around and not doing anything. Did you ever do any of that in high school?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we'd always go for rides and everything like that. Kids just blowing off steam, didn't have a whole lot to do. When I was in high school, a lot of times we'd come over here and hang out just because nobody actually lived at this house. It was the farm office or whatnot. So we used it as like our little hangout spot just because you don't want to go into mom and dad's nice house and hang out with your buddies or whatever. So it was our little getaway.
It goes by fast.
I go back to the high school football games. I just feel old.
Talk to me in 14 years, buddy.
No joke. That's what everybody tells me. It does. It goes by quick. When I was younger, I was like, man, I hate this school thing. When's that going to be over with? And now that's over with. It was really weird this year. Everybody else I know that's a year younger going back to school. And I was like, man, this is the first time since I was like 5 that I'm not going to school. It's
I,
weird, but I
I
like
think
it.
I missed it for a couple years. Not necessarily like the school part of it, the camaraderie and seeing your
Yeah.
buddies
Yeah.
every day.
Yeah. It took a little bit to get used to because farm life, especially like my buddies that are still at SIU and everything that are a year younger, going and getting their masters, you're used to seeing a select group of friends all the time when you're down there. And then when I got back home, yeah, I'm still like a phone call or a text away or whatever, but it's just different being on the farm, just me and dad all day instead of seeing all these people.
Most of your buddies are still in school yet?
Yeah, I'd say the ones I was closest with at SIU, a couple of them graduated with me, obviously, but there's still a bunch of buddies that I was in different clubs at school and everything with that are still there. I've got a few buddies graduating in December, and obviously my friends at KC we graduated with a couple of years ago are off doing their thing too. A bunch of like my closest friends, especially the ones that farm, are either at their respective farms at home or still at school yet.
You said your sister's out of high school?
Yeah, yep. She's a year younger than me. She's finishing up her senior year right now at college, and she's going to be a teacher.
Teacher, huh?
Yep.
Where'd
Yep.
she go to
She played
college at?
McHenry in Lebanon. It's an hour west of here. She played volleyball there all through college. So she was big in sports too and got a scholarship and played there.
Was she a little more athletic than you?
Yeah, it goes by tiers. I was the least athletic. I was like the more book smart one. I did that more. I still played football. I did pretty good for myself there. And then my sister went to college for volleyball. And now my little brother, he's probably the most athletic out of the three of us. My sister, she just played volleyball. And then my little brother, he plays football, basketball, and he runs track in the spring. He does a little bit of all of it. And he's been starting basketball and football. This will be his second year starting basketball. And he's a 3-year starter on the football team. He's pretty damn good.
How many kids did you go to high school with?
Oh man, our enrollment, I think we were like somewhere around 500 kids. My graduating class was 144. We're pretty decent size. It's not like super small. My grade school, I graduated with 14. Like a smaller feeder school, and then like the whole county goes to school at one high school.
There you go. That's a little bit bigger than the school I went to.
Oh yeah.
Graduated 36, 37.
Yeah, that's a bunch of the stories I heard at SIU of kids from like Central Illinois and stuff. They had like real little high schools up there.
Yep, had to walk uphill to school both ways, man.
Oh yeah. You sound like my grandpa telling those stories, man.
Before we wrap this up, we'll finish off here with good pass the mic segment. So I think I
Okay.
walked you through this, but I'll ask you a question. We'll see what you have for an answer, and we'll ask a question for the next guest. So the question from Doug is something along the lines of, how do you think you can get involved with the community, whether that's agriculture? I think it was something like getting involved with the agriculture community for education and stuff like that. So are there certain things you're trying to do to get more involved?
Yeah, so I'm a member of our high school FFA alumni program. They just started it a couple of years ago. Basically, like we can donate money and we do like fundraisers for the school and everything like that. You pay like dues every year and then you help out with fundraisers through the school and helping them pretty much just raise money for the FFA chapter and do meetings and dinners and all kinds of cool stuff. I'm active in that. I went to like the Farm Bureau annual meeting last year with my school, like SIU. So that was cool. I'll probably go back up there this year too. In my community, broad spectrum, not even just ag, like obviously the football coaching part too. It's cool. It's nice. It's rewarding giving back to something that you were a part of and everything like that.
We got your blue jacket.
Yeah. Yep. It's still in my closet. Yeah. I loved FFA, man. I ate that up. So I had like my record book with swine and everything too. So I did pretty well for myself there. And I was FFA president my senior year too of our chapter.
Impressive.
Yeah, I loved it, man. It was awesome.
Cool. That's an awesome answer. What do you have for a question for the next guest?
Yeah, I would say, and obviously it's going to depend on who the guest is, but the guests will probably be a little bit older than me. I go on ag Twitter or X or whatever it is now and see a lot of older people talking about like the next generation of agriculture. So what I would say is, what does the next person on the podcast want the next generation of agriculture to bring to the table?
Cool.
Just as a young person, you feel like you have these expectations, but sometimes I just want to ask, what do you want me to do? What do the people who have had the reins for a long time expect of the next generation? Do they just want us to keep things as how they did it? Do they want us to do something new? Do they want us to keep that upward trajectory?
The last person that answered that question was something about technology.
I would assume so, yeah. Obviously, technology is going to advance and everything like that too, but sometimes you just want to make sure you keep your ancestors proud. I don't want someday to have like autonomous tractors. I'm just sitting here in my office watching everything move out in the field and have all the older people be like, that's not really farming. You're just sitting behind your computer.
It'll get there eventually, whether we see it or not.
That's right.
Cool, man. I appreciate you joining. It's been a lot of fun getting to know you.